Welcome to Storytime with the Intimacy Ally. Each episode will tear down a myth, kick a social norm in the beanbag, gut punch a sex ed untruth, or destroy a poorly constructed relationship expectation. Get ready to unlearn all the crap you accepted as fact. Strap in for a mind-blowing revision on what sex is and what it can do. Prepare yourself for a whole new thought pattern when it comes to modern relationships. And now, here's your host, Jenny Simas, the Intimacy Ally, relationship expert and certified sex and intimacy coach.
Hello, my lovelies. Welcome back to Storytime with the Intimacy Ally. I am here today with my guest, Stephany Ann. She is a public speaker, a lawyer, a mom, and as she just pointed out to me, October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So a survivor and a thriver after domestic violence. Stephany Ann, I would love for you to do a little intro of your own, and then we'll talk about what we're going to cover today.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me on the show.
Mm-hmm.
Like Jenny said, I'm Stephany, and I am a survivor of two narcissistic marriages. And my story is a story of how I survived those marriages and how I was able to shift my perspective and then I was able to see the lessons in my story. And then I was able to heal. And that's, what I want to share with so many people, that you don't have to be stuck in these toxic relationships. You don't have to feel like you've given your power away and you can't get it back.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I'm here to talk about, getting your power back and becoming empowered.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
All right. Yeah, I was just, I want to say, because it's story time, we're going to cover a few of these stories that the patriarchy, societal norms, probably your mom or your friends or somebody got it in your head that these things are okay. And we're trying to tell you, no, they are not. So I know for a fact that Stephany is going to give us some insight into the fact that, people think that you have to fit some sort of mold or type. You are some sort of cliche of a person who becomes a victim in a domestic violence situation. And she's going to show us that's absolutely not true. Also, she's going to touch on that you have to stay stuck or, be a victim, stay in that mindset or always be pushed down by the trauma bonding that happens in these relationships. Untrue. And then the one that I find so interesting, because so many people probably argue against this with you, and I totally see it, and I cannot wait to hear how you break it down and unpack it, is that narcissists are confident.
Mm-hmm.
So I would just love it if you would just start out sharing your story. I want to share it with my listeners. I want to hear more about it.
Thank you. Yeah, I definitely. So, Jenny, for years, I was living a completely different story through a lens of why me? And only recently do I feel like I've broken a pattern of calling people into my life through relationships that would teach me the lessons I still needed to learn about owning this as my story, not someone else's story. And there's so many of us. There's a lot of shame. There's a lot of guilt. There's a lot of embarrassment around owning your story as a survivor.
Mm-hmm.
And so for many years, I did not want to own my story. But my story is one of healing those parts within me that have had me feeling unworthy of love, so that I would call in these people over and over again through relationships who would reflect that back to me, whether it's through their abusive words, through the manipulation, through the gaslighting, through the feeling of never feeling like you're enough for them.
So what does that mean when you say that you're calling them in?
So, I feel like when you have these patterns in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, I believe it was a pattern of feeling unworthy. We call people in who reflect that back to us.
Okay.
And so, it's like the unhealed parts of us that
Mm-hmm.
aren't healed. And until we can stop and sit back and see the lessons and break the patterns and really heal, we will continue to repeat patterns again and again in our life.
Right.
And so that's when I say, like, we can call people into our life who reflect back to us what we are feeling inside us. Does that
But
make sense?
you're not like victim shaming. You're not
Oh,
saying that
no.
okay.
No, not
Just
at
making
all.
sure.
No, no, I'm just saying this is what tends to happen.
Mm,
And until you break these patterns in your life, you might be repeating the same things over and over again until those patterns get broken.
right.
Does
So
that
tell
does that
me
make
like a
sense?
little bit about yourself, like before you entered that first, noticeable relationship.
So I came from a very healthy family.
Mm-hmm.
My parents have been married for over 45 years. They
Mm-hmm.
modeled good relationships. I don't have these daddy issues. I'm not looking, I was a healed, healthy, whole person.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I had a good relationship with my father. I like to say, like, I did all the right things.
Right.
I went to college. I spent 5 years traveling around the world, backpacking around the
Wow.
world, living all over the place.
Okay.
And so I've had this incredible life before
Mm-hmm.
I met my first husband. And then when I met him, yeah, there was some red flags, maybe.
Right.
I'm sure
Did you
there
paint them
there
green
were.
and just keep
Well, of
going?
course, you do, because they
Right.
don't they
Like
don't
we
show
do.
that
Mm-hmm.
side of they don't
Right.
show that side of themselves, and
Right. And
so you don't.
even if they do, you can like excuse it. Like you come up with some way like, that was a one off.
Oh,
Yeah. Oh yeah. Hmm.
absolutely, absolutely. And when you have been trauma bonded with someone, and again, a trauma bond is um, so there's a cycle when you're
Hmm.
in these relationships, whether it is a relationship that is just domestic violence, not with a narcissist, or in a relationship with a narcissist.
Hmm.
So what happens is that when you first meet the person, that's the honeymoon stage. So,
Hmm.
you're so in love, and they are just showing you the best version of themselves.
Hmm.
They are love bombing you. They are doing wonderful things for you. They're taking
Hmm.
you out. They're buying you things. They are showing you off. They're proud of you. They love everything about you.
Right.
And so, but you don't realize you're in these relationships. And
Hmm.
this is one of the myths. um you you don't realize that you're in it until
Right.
you are in it.
Hmm.
And so in the beginning, there's like I'm saying, there's the honeymoon stage, and then after there's the devaluation stage. And so
Hmm.
this might be where they start critiquing you, criticizing you, um, calling you names. The manipulation comes in, and then they go back. They're like, oh, well, they feel bad. Well, they don't feel bad because of you. They feel bad that, oh, maybe I took it a little too far. So let me
Or
love
you
bomb
might
them.
leave. Yeah.
Yeah. And so let me
Hmm.
love bomb them back to me.
Hmm.
So then you're stuck in this cycle of honeymoon, uh, love bombing, devaluation, until there's eventually a discard somewhere in there, whether you wake up and realize what's going on and you leave them, or they just discard you because their mask came off and you see who they truly are. And so you leave them.
Mm.
Um, and so the trauma, that's the cycle of the trauma bond. And a trauma bond is a lot like a drug addiction. This
Hmm.
is like the best way I can describe it. So you become addicted to this person because you know that they can treat you well. You know that they can be kind. You know that they can love you the way you need to be loved.
Right.
And so you're constantly searching for that next dopamine rush, that next high, like in the beginning. Just similarly with a drug addict, seeking that first high.
Right.
But you will never get to that first high
Mm-hmm.
because this is all just a game
Right.
for
And conversely for
narcissists.
them, like they're getting that high when
Mm-hmm.
they manipulate you,
Oh,
when
yeah.
they control you. So it's
Yep.
like that you're both feeding this different side of the addiction, and the
Yes.
relationship itself is the addiction.
Yes. And it
Goose cam.
is so hard to break that. And so
Mm-hmm.
this is why you see so many people stuck in these relationships. Well, why didn't you just leave?
Mm-hmm.
It's complicated. It's not that easy because there is this trauma bond.
Right.
So it's not just as easy to say, "Hey, Jenny, why don't you just leave him? He treats you
Mm-hmm.
horribly. He does all these things to you. Why are you still with him?"
Right.
Well, it's, and like rationally, we can go there. We can say, yeah, he's horrible. He's mean. He's done all these things. But then, then our heart is like, oh, but you love him. But he knows how to treat you. He's just mean right now, but he's going to be nice in a couple days.
Right.
And,
And then
and
you
so,
add kids into it.
oh, and it's other, a whole
Mm-hmm.
other.
Right.
So,
Especially if they're
for,
kind to the kids because they're able to, because the kids are of them. So it's like that's a piece
mhm.
of me. I think that they legitimately can love a child that is theirs. But
Yeah,
I don't know if it's
yeah.
possible for them to actually love their partners. I just don't.
Yeah, I agree, and I had those thoughts so many times. Like, did they ever love me? What was real? I mean, because
Mhm.
there's so much of it is so fake, and so much of it is a game. Like, what
Mhm.
is real?
Right.
Going back to the trauma bond with my second husband, Jason,
Mhm.
we were together for 4 years. And in the beginning, I thought I was doing everything right
Mhm.
because we had met online, and I'm like, well, let's just get to know each other before we even meet in person.
Mhm.
Just to protect my kids and to protect myself. I'm like, let's just get to know each other. So we
Okay.
spent weeks talking and really getting to know each other.
Mhm.
Well, you can't see a lot of red flags when you are just having a phone conversation with someone.
Right.
And I didn't know that he was just projecting me back to me. He was mirroring
Mm.
me,
Just
you know?
mirroring, just kind
He
of
was
like
mirroring
mirroring your
me.
behavior so that it would
Exactly.
please you and like entice you.
Exactly. And
Ooh.
so even before we met, I was in love with him. I was
Mm.
in love with myself because he
Mm.
reflected me back.
Whoa.
And so, um, breaking the and so in the beginning, just to give some examples for any of the listeners, in the beginning he loved that I was a strong independent woman. He loved that, I'm a feminist and all my girlfriends are strong independent empowered women. He
Mhm.
loved that. He loved all my girlfriends.
Mhm.
He loved that I'm a lawyer.
Mhm.
Well, when it came to the devaluation, he's like, I hate lawyers. And then for the next 4 years, just going off on how horrible lawyers are and this and that, how he
Oh.
hates my girlfriends, because they could see through him.
Right.
Sometimes we can't see everything, but other people standing on the outside can see. So he hated all my friends. He would talk horrible things about my girlfriends and things
Mm.
that would make me feel bad. And he would cut me down for being me.
Right. Right.
And it's like, and this is where it becomes so confusing because you're like, well, I haven't changed. You loved all of this about me in the beginning,
Mhm.
and now you hate all of this about me. And
Right.
so that's where it becomes so confusing, because it's just so confusing. They
And
keep
then it
you,
makes you question, like, did you change? Are
yes,
you different? Like, am I the one who changed? Did I present like a front when I first met him? Like,
mm-hmm,
and we question because we think about things and we do it
mm-hmm,
quietly. We don't ask out loud. We do it
yeah,
quietly, and we start to eat away at our own selves and our own senses of self
yes.
because they plant that seed and we just let it grow into this mighty, mighty tree of self-doubt.
Oh,
Ugh.
absolutely, absolutely. And they keep you, with the gaslighting, they keep you so confused in what is real and what is not real.
Mhm. Oh
And
my god.
so,
Yes.
for gaslighting is when you have your understanding of what happened and they take it and either minimize it or they say it did not exist. And
Right?
so they make you start to feel like you are the crazy one.
Right.
So I started keeping a journal. I mean, I've always had a journal, but I started keeping a journal and I would go back. I'm like, it did not happen like that.
Mhm. Oh yeah, at one point I
But
was recording things. At one point I was recording things, not because I was going to share
yes.
them with anybody because God forbid that I would ever actually let anyone else hear what was happening or what
Mm-hmm.
was being said to me, but I was recording things just so that I knew that it actually came out of his mouth
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I was so convinced that my memory was so shitty
Yes.
that because that's what he told me.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah. And it keeps you stuck feeling like you're the one that did something wrong.
mhm,
And so I found myself like, okay, well, what do I need to change about me? Like what did I do wrong? Do I need to wake up earlier? Do I need to go to the gym more? Do I need to um am I not loving you the way you needed to be loved? And so
mhm,
they make you turn everything on you.
right.
And we start trying to figure out what we did wrong and trying to fix all these things, but it wasn't us in the beginning.
Did he get mad at you after a while for trying to correct before, like to correct something like the first time that he said something about it?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Well, and
yeah.
he
I
my
didn't tell
second.
you had to do that. I didn't say you had to do that. It was just a suggestion. It was just a
Oh,
it's just a different way of thinking, right?
oh yeah. I'm just speaking my truth. Sorry, you
Oh,
can't handle my truth.
oh,
I'm just
oh.
telling the truth.
Mhm,
Yeah, in
mhm,
the
mm.
meanest way possible, and it's not really the truth.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. And so with the narcissist, um, so just I don't know how much your audience knows about narcissism, but it was a Greek myth of
Mhm,
Narcissus was this guy who went and looked into a lake and he saw his own reflection and he
mhm,
couldn't get over his own reflection. He was just so in love with himself. And so, narcissists, they have this inflated self importance. Like they think they are so superior to everyone else. And we all need to bow down and worship them,
mhm,
essentially, because they are these little demigods. Um, they lack empathy. They struggle being able to empathize with your feelings and your needs. And they manipulate to exploit others to achieve their goals.
and
And,
for
and they don't
fun.
care what they do.
For
Yeah.
fun.
They
Sometimes
want,
it is genuinely just for entertainment
oh,
purposes,
yeah,
and that's horrifying because
it
it's to the
is.
closest people in their lives,
Oh, yeah.
generally a partner.
Yeah. Oh, no.
Yeah.
My ex would tell me, he's like, because after a while, when I started figuring out everything that was going on and I stopped reacting, he wanted a reaction. And he started telling me that.
Oh,
He's like,
yeah.
I want a reaction because it's control. They're controlling our emotions.
Mhm.
They want you to react. And so they will manipulate and lie and provoke just to get a reaction from you.
Mm-hmm.
But the truth is that narcissists suffer from the lowest fragile self-esteem and fragile ego.
Mm-hmm.
And so what you were saying, one of the myths is that, oh, the narcissists are so
Confident.
confident,
Mm-hmm.
so powerful. No, they are some of the most overly sensitive, overly fragile. They are not confident. And this is why they do what they do, because
Right.
they cannot live with themselves. And the only way they can feel better about themselves is by putting you down, by
Right.
controlling you.
It's like
And
posturing. Yeah.
yeah.
And then they like thrive off of, like you said, belittling those around them.
And
Yeah.
they
Feeling
constantly need,
superior.
and they
Mm-hmm.
constantly need validation and approval. And if you look at any of the narcissists, whether men or women, because it's both,
Right.
you can see that they've had difficulty maintaining relationships throughout their entire life.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have, like, that's kind of the general traits of a narcissist. But even
Mm-hmm.
within that, there are narcissists who are more like a victim. There are some who are more just covert and sneaky and manipulate a different way. And
Right.
so going back to what we were talking about before I started talking about the narcissism and the traits is, bringing up things to your partner. Like, hey, you made food. Can you clean up your mess? Can you
Mm-hmm.
shut the refrigerator? It's still open. Can you pick up after yourselves? Can you help out with things? Well, my
Mm-hmm.
second husband was a victim narcissist.
Mm-hmm.
And the victim narcissist, every time I would bring something up, like a criticism or like just constructive criticism, like, we have to have these talks. We're married.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And he would turn everything around and start crying. You don't understand. I can't do this. And he would turn everything around and manipulate the whole situation to where I didn't even get a word in, and it was all about
Nice.
him.
Mm.
Yeah, this is the victim narcissist.
Okay.
They're always the victim. They're always, the world is so unfair. Everyone's betrayed them. Everyone
Mm-hmm.
has hurt
Everyone's
them.
out to get
And
me.
and you're just out to
Mm-hmm.
get them when all you said is, can you flush the toilet? Put
Right.
the toilet seat, And
Right.
so it's so difficult being in these relationships. And it is domestic violence. And that's another thing as well, is that, so for many years, I was a domestic violence advocate. I
Mm-hmm.
actually won the governor's award for my advocacy work,
Mm-hmm.
award that's only offered to one person in the entire state once a year.
Mm.
So I got this award, and doing my work helping victims of domestic violence through the legal system um,
And you're in
and stuff.
California?
I'm in Oregon.
You're in Oregon. Still way bigger state than Maryland.
Mm-hmm.
Maryland's a tiny state, so that's a pretty big state that you're
Yeah.
getting this award in. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, but like, for so many years, my first husband, he's a covert narcissist.
I was about to ask, what kind was he?
Yeah. So I will tell you the differences. So he was a covert, and a covert narcissist is one on the outside who he's leading church groups. They're in ministry.
Mm-hmm.
They're in high leadership positions.
Mm-hmm.
They are leaders in the community. They
Look like the
go to,
doting dads.
yeah. And then
Always
behind
look like
closed
the
doors,
dad that
it
gets
is,
on his hands and knees and plays with the kids,
mm-hmm.
and wouldn't ever make the mom feel like she's doing it all on her own, right?
No,
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 of
nope,
course
nope,
not.
nope. And so this is why it's hard to spot these ones, because everyone else is like, oh, but they're so great.
Mm-hmm.
Not at
Mm-mm.
home, not behind
Mm-mm.
closed doors. It's
Nope.
something else. And so, he was constantly having affairs and seeking validation outside of the marriage. and,
Mm,
to feed his ego, to feed his self-esteem because he felt so low about himself.
right.
Um, and so for the longest time, I didn't see that as abuse. I didn't see that as domestic
Mhm.
violence.
Do you also have kids with your first
Oh yeah,
husband?
I do.
Okay.
And so we have two boys together.
Okay.
And so I didn't look at it like he was abusive for all these years. But
Mhm.
now going back and looking at it, no, I mean, abuse is anything when you say, don't do that, that's hurting me, stop, and they continue
Mhm.
to do that, that's
Mhm.
abuse. There's no
Mhm.
respect there, there's no trust there.
The
And
respect and the trust and the safety are
yes,
all gone.
oh,
They're
yeah,
all gone. And then and then these motherfuckers get mad at you for having anxiety,
oh, yeah,
for being
oh, yeah,
anxious about everything, for becoming hypochondriacs, for
oh, yeah,
becoming people who are like on the verge of tears if they burn one corner of a fucking lasagna. They're like, "What's
oh,
wrong with you?" It's like,
oh,
"Are you
yeah,
like you I mean, but you don't know it right then. Right then you can't say you're
exactly.
like, I'm just a broken mess. I'm so sorry." It makes me think
Yes.
of you've seen Little Shop of Horrors, right?
I actually haven't.
Oh my god, you gotta watch Little Shop of Horrors, but there's a part in it. You know what? I'm not gonna ruin it. Okay, I am gonna ruin it. There's a part in it where the leading lady, she's with this abusive guy, and it's just a shadow scene. Like you don't see the actual hitting, but she just keeps saying, "I'm sorry, doctor. I'm sorry, doctor," because she spilled something, and he's
Yeah.
hitting her for like spilling something or like getting a stain on his jacket or something. And it is, I mean, it's like an over the top, dramatization, but that is your learned behavior in those
Mhm.
situations. You are ready to
Oh, yeah.
apologize for everything. And then they have the audacity to like get mad at you for
Mhm.
over apologizing or for being nervous, for
Yeah.
constantly living in your limbic system. And it's like, you
Yes.
put me here, asshole. But
Yes.
you don't feel it then. Like you said, you later realize like, holy shit, this was
Yes.
this was abusive like the entire time.
Yep.
Mm,
Yeah.
but go ahead.
And
I'm
and
sorry to
oh, no,
interject.
no, I love it. This is a conversation. But no,
Okay.
it's it's so true because how many of us say, "Oh, well, he was just a cheater.
Mhm.
She was just a cheater."
Mhm.
No, they are abusive.
Mhm.
Like, can we start changing the dialogue here
Right.
and just
Yeah.
call it what it is? It's
Yeah.
abuse.
I have told you like you just said, I have told you that this hurt me and you
Mm,
continue to do it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
If
until
it was a
we like,
slap across the face, if it was a punch to the gut, if it was a shove to a wall, if it was putting you in a headlock, we'd see it for what it was.
yeah,
But you can't see it when it's behind closed doors or it's
well, it's
cheating
the
constantly.
emotional and the psychological abuse
Oh yeah.
is even to me, I've
It's so
said it
much
before, like
it's so
it's
damaging.
worse. It's so
Yeah.
much worse. Like I
Mhm.
remember one time telling my husband, I'm like, you've had all these emotional affairs with all these women. I would much rather you just go and have a one night stand and get it out and done
Right.
than be like emotionally connected with all these other people,
Right.
or sometimes
That's
like just to,
probably a preference though. It's probably
yeah,
a
but
preference.
but you know what I'm
Cuz
saying? It's like
I'll
the
bet you there's some
emotional,
women who are like, "Yeah, go be friends with somebody, but don't you pick up a sex worker." But,
yeah,
on
right?
the other hand, there are people who can see it conversely and say, that is so much more harmful to
Yeah,
me that you are having these connections, especially if you're making a full effort to have that type of connection with somebody while you're treating me like a pebble in your shoe and I'm your
yeah,
wife.
yeah.
What is happening?
No, it's horrible. And so,
Mhm.
when he left for another woman after we were together for 15 years. It
Mhm.
was It was devastating. But at the same time, it was like, he told me, he's like, Stephany, I'm setting you free. And he did. He did what
Right.
I could not have done. I
Mhm.
didn't have the strength to leave him. I didn't have the energy to leave him. I
Mhm.
stayed trying to be the good wife, you know. We went to church. We did all these things. We have his parents have been married for 55 years. My parents have been married for 45 years. You know, so
Right.
we had these good families, but what if someone's not willing to work with you and you have tried and it is a situation like this,
Mhm.
you have every right to leave. I mean, please
Right. Yeah,
leave
I
and
hate
work
it.
on
Like, I
yourself
hate
and
it when
heal
people
yourself.
say, like, YOLO, but, like, for real, you only live once.
Yes.
If I I ju I know that what holds a lot of people back is that they'll be strapped financially, you
Oh,
know?
yeah.
I know it comes down to that a whole lot, like, where will you go? Like, if you
Yeah.
don't have parents, you don't have siblings, you have friends, but they have their own families that they gotta take care of. Who's gonna take you in? If you have
Oh, yeah.
kids, heaven forbid if any of you are disabled and
Oh, yeah.
you're trying to get out of the situation.
Well, and you see so many, you know, I'm just talking about women here, but like I gave up a lot of my career to be at home to raise the children. I didn't
Mhm,
have an income.
mhm.
Yeah,
Same.
I didn't
Mhm.
have an income. And so, was it difficult? Yes, it was
Yeah.
very difficult. Yeah, I have a doctorate, I have degrees, I have all this stuff, but still, like in the state I was in, I wasn't licensed in that state to practice. That would take me a year, you know, to study for the
Mhm.
bar there and to do all of this and to get my license back up to speed and stuff. And so it's not just like, yeah, what are you going to do?
Right.
I was very fortunate that I had a great support network and family that were able to help me transition and get back on my feet. But you know what? That's hard. It is
Mhm.
very hard.
Yeah.
And so if you are in this situation and you want to leave this situation, start open up your own bank account and start hiding money. Start getting
Mhm.
it in there. Even if it's you don't have control and he's checking the receipts, buy something and then return it real quick just so you can get, you know, 20, $30, $50. Put it away if you're
Mhm.
planning on going because you do need that. And
Yeah.
then thankfully there are organizations out there, you know, like the domestic violence hotline. They have advocates that will help safety plan and connect you with resources. So there are financial
Right.
resources out there that will help for rent, that will help for bills, that will help for other things. But you know, it's still you have to go out there and get them and apply and wait.
Right.
Um,
You said the domestic violence network
yeah, the domestic violence hotline
hotline.
is, and if you
I wanna put that in
call,
the show notes for people.
yes, yes. So if you are hearing our story and us talking and you feel like you could be in a an abusive relationship, um, reach out to the domestic violence hotline because they have advocates and they will connect you with advocates and uh, a center like a woman's center in your city, like whatever is closest to
Right.
you.
I know we have House of Ruth, here. I'm not sure how, local that is or if that's nationwide. Um, but, it's so hard. It's so hard, Stephanie. Like, I remember when we were members of a synagogue, um that like you go in the bathroom and on the back of the stall, it was like,
Mm-hmm.
are you in a situation where you feel unsafe or, you feel like your partner is abusing you? Here, call this number and da 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 da. I never called that number.
Oh,
I
I
never
didn't
called that
either.
number. It had to get to extremes. Yeah, I never called
Well,
that
and
number.
yeah, I didn't I never did either. And
Mhm.
and you know, again, like looking back, sometimes it didn't always feel like, you know, quote domestic violence. Oh, he's
Right.
just mean today. He's just saying mean things to me.
Right. That was a
Is that
one-off.
is that
His
domestic
job is
violence? Is
stressful. Oh,
yes,
he had a little
we
too much to
justify it.
drink.
Yes.
Whatever.
But when
Yeah.
you take a step back and you look at the totality, no, it's every day. Oh,
Mhm.
his drinking is every day. It's out of control.
Mhm.
The way he talks to the kids, the way he speaks to you.
Mhm.
You wouldn't accept anyone else speaking to you the way this person does. So why do we accept this?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, well, I mean, I guess
Right?
you're gonna
Well,
break down some of the
yeah, I mean,
psychology for me.
well, a lot of it, what I think is it's the trauma bond.
Mhm.
We know that they're being unkind right now, but we
Mhm.
also know that they know how to love us. So again, it goes back to the trauma bond. Okay, well,
Right.
let me just try to fix something in me. Maybe, when he comes home, maybe if I already have like a six pack of beer for him, I just hand him one. I tell all the kids to go in the room and just be quiet and vanish. So,
Mhm.
we find ourselves uh, catering to their
Mhm.
every whim, their every need, worshiping them almost,
Right.
because that's what gives us peace. And they don't do anything, they don't attack us, they don't say negative things. But then you could even have the situations where you did all of that, but the beer's too warm, it's not cold enough. There's always a criticism.
Or it was, "Why did you do that? I don't feel like doing this right now. I didn't ask
Yeah,
you for that. I didn't ask you to do any of this. Why are you
yeah,
doing this?"
yeah. I didn't ask you to make dinner, I just wanted a can of chili.
Right. Right. "Who told you
So
that I needed to do this, or I needed you to do this?" Oh my god.
yeah, and so
Alright.
it's just it's hard, it's confusing, it's all those things. And so over the years, looking at these two marriages, within 17 years, and just feeling like, gosh, these guys are monsters. These
Mhm.
guys are monsters in my life, and they are trying to destroy me. They're trying to destroy my life. And for the longest time, I lived in that victim mindset. Like, I
Mhm.
didn't do anything wrong. I was a good wife. I'm a good mother. I'm a good person. I go to church. I do all these things. And yet, it's these
Right.
guys who are inflicting all of this drama, trauma, and chaos and abuse on me.
Mhm.
But when I was stuck in that victim mindset, I couldn't see the lessons.
Mm.
I couldn't get out of being a victim. And I've seen
Right.
so many men and women stuck in their victim story. I didn't do anything wrong. Okay, yes, I agree, because I didn't either. So let's change the perspective of your story. What if,
Mhm.
instead of being the victim of your story, what if you were the heroine of the story? What would that
Mhm.
look like?
Mhm.
So then I went back and I got a big journal. I'm like, okay, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to change my story. So I looked at my first husband, Josh. What did you teach me? If I'm the
Mhm.
hero of my story, what did you teach me along my journey? Okay, you taught me that I need to have boundaries. So
Mm.
thank you for showing me that I need boundaries, because I
Mhm.
spent almost 15 years having boundaries for you. You get
Okay.
that?
Yeah.
So
Go ahead,
I
but
didn't have the boundaries,
unpack it a little bit. Yes.
yeah, so he was cheating. So I would constantly confront him. Why are you cheating? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? I would go and I would talk to the other women. He's married. What are you doing? Why are you having these conversations with a married man? And so,
Mhm.
I'm confronting, I am being the boundaries police for him, instead of
Mm.
focusing on me and my boundaries.
Right.
So I can look back and say, thank you, Josh, for showing me that I must have boundaries and I cannot be the boundaries police for anyone.
Okay.
So going into marriage number two, I went in with boundaries. But he kept pushing those boundaries. Oh, your boundary's right here? Well, what if we just push it a little bit? Okay, give in, push it a little bit, push it a little bit. And so really, you didn't have boundaries. If you're constantly letting someone push those boundaries, then really you don't have boundaries.
Right.
So I can say, Jason, thank you. Even though I went in with the understanding and the knowing the importance of having boundaries, you kept pushing it. So now I can thank you and say, I need to have firm boundaries, and a boundary is a boundary. You don't move boundaries. And I can go back to Josh, my first one, and say, okay, thank you for showing me that I am worthy of so much more. This is the worthiness piece. And thank you for showing me that. And then I can go to Jace and be like, okay, I thought I was worthy. I thought I manifested you, but God gave me all the unlearned lessons from Josh. He gave them to me again. And this is where I was saying about repeating the patterns until you learn the lessons. So again, with Jace, Stephany, you are worthy of so much more. Why do you put up with this? And so when I was able to make that shift to see my story through a different lens, instead of like, why me, why me, why me, but for me, what is for me in these relationships, then I was able to see the lessons, know what to heal and what to work on, and break the patterns in my life.
So how did you do that? What helped you do that?
So I, back in 2020, I had separated from my second husband, and, you know, it was like the world was chaotic. So I did not know. And this is what also made all of this so much more confusing. So if you were with a narcissist in 2020, oh my God, my heart goes out to you, because the world was confusing. My life was confusing. My husband that I just married was confusing. And so I didn't know what was 2020 and what was real, what was fake, what was 2020, what was.
And there was a sense of immediacy, right? Because people are dying. People are dying from this thing that's going around. Do you want to die here? Like, that was a big thing for me, because it was like my marriage died February 23rd, 2020. And then like the lockdown happened like 3 weeks later.
Yeah.
And I'm like locked down with, you know, my soon to be ex and our kids. And I'm like, what is happening right now?
Oh, it's such a confusing time. So when we separated in 2020, I was like, I need something, because something was just, it was just so off. Like I just didn't know what was right and wrong and stuff. And so I'm like, well, I need to heal myself, because again, you think it's all you. And one of my friends posted something about EFT.
Okay.
And I signed up.
Do you want to explain what EFT
I will.
is? Okay.
Just 1 second. So I signed up thinking I was just going to work with a practitioner, you know, just do a couple sessions. I actually signed up to become a practitioner. So I did not realize that until after, you know, all of this. That's how desperate I was for something.
All right, now I'm caught up.
Yeah. So I thought I was doing a couple sessions with a practitioner. I was in a practitioner course, which was very good, because I had a lot of healing.
That's one of those universal things, like you put out into the world, like, I need something. I need this something that's going to help me realize my worth. And then it was like, here you go. You're going to learn to practice this.
Yes. And you know, it was so good, because I did it for days and months and weeks. And, you know, so EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Techniques. It is a healing modality that focuses on tapping on the meridian points of your body And what it does, it helps to rewire your brain. And
Mm-hmm.
so being in these toxic relationships and with all the lies, all the manipulation, all the gaslighting, it has wired our brain. The trauma bond has wired our brain. And
Mm-hmm.
so many people say, oh, well, time will heal. No, time does not heal from these relationships. You have
No.
to rewire your brain. You have to rewire your mind and your mindset and your thoughts because of all the trauma and abuse you've been through.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what it is, there's 3 rounds. The first round is really sitting with the big, heavy emotions that are coming up. The second one is releasing those big, heavy emotions. And the third one is tapping into the person you want to become.
Okay.
And so I'll just walk you through
I was about to
just a
say,
little
I would
bit.
love
Yeah.
to see an example. 'Cause I actually, I do know what it is. I've actually been in sessions for it before. It is one of those other things. Like I did a bunch of stuff. I did
Mm-hmm.
so many modalities, and I think we've talked about this before, and we'll hit it on another one. We'll like go through a laundry list, but yes, I would
Yes.
love to see like a demonstration of like one run through. Yeah,
Yeah. So I will do it on um, like guilt for staying too long in the relationship.
it's a good
Because
one.
a lot of us, we were like, why didn't we leave? Why didn't we leave
What's
sooner? Why
wrong
didn't we
with
leave sooner?
me? Why didn't I
Yeah.
leave the first time? If it had been my sister, I would have gotten her out. First sign of
Mm-hmm.
trouble. Mm-hmm.
It's the trauma bond. So you always start off with the setup statement, and it's tapping on the karate chop point. So I
Do
would
you want
start
me to do
out
it with
with,
you or no?
yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So I would say, even though I stayed too long in this marriage, I love and accept myself always. And then you would repeat what I said.
Even though I stayed in this marriage too long, I accept myself and I love myself.
Hmm. So even though there's some guilt coming up because I stayed too long, I still love and accept all parts of me.
Even though there's some guilt coming up because I stayed too long, I love and accept all parts of me.
And even though there were moments when I could have left, that
And
you would
even though
repeat,
there were moments when I could have left,
but I didn't, and I'm feeling a lot of guilt for that.
but I didn't, and I'm feeling a lot of guilt for that.
I love and accept myself always.
I love and accept myself always.
So on top of the head, I have all this guilt.
Like this.
Yep. So I have
I
all
have
this
all of
guilt
this guilt,
on between the eyes, all this guilt
all this guilt,
on the eyebrows, and all this shame for staying too long
and all this shame for staying too long.
on the sides of the eyes. Just all this guilt, I feel it in my gut,
Just all this guilt. I feel it in my gut.
underneath the eyes. What if I could let all this guilt go
What if I could let all this guilt go?
underneath the nose? What if I could release all this guilt from my body
What if I could release all this guilt from my body?
underneath the mouth? What would that look like if I could just release it all and live a life without this guilt?
What would that look like if I could just release it all and live a life without this guilt?
So we'll stop. We'll stop there. But there's just to give you an
Mm.
idea. So
Mm-hmm.
I will do so when I'm working with a client. I
Mm-hmm.
ask them, okay, so guilt is coming up. Where are you feeling it in your body?
Mm-hmm.
And if you could rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, what would it be? With 10 being the most severe. And
Mm-hmm.
so the first round is just tapping on it, recognizing it, acknowledging it, and
Mm-hmm.
just sitting with it. So it's kind of like a vent. It could be whatever it is that's coming up. I hate him. Why did I stay so long? Why did he do this to me? So we're just acknowledging these big, heavy emotions. We're sitting with them.
Right.
And then, Then we do a round of releasing. Like, what would it look like to be free of anxiety? What would it look like to actually
Mhm.
feel safe and secure? What would
Mm.
that look like? Because, a lot of times our body is telling us something. That's why we have these big emotions. Anxiety.
Mhm.
Anxiety can be good. It
Right.
is
The
our
gift
body
of fear.
telling us something.
Mhm.
It's our body saying something is not right. Pay
Right.
attention.
Mhm. Yeah, it goes back to,
Well,
like, caveman days.
yeah. And so
Yeah.
what is the other side of anxiety? It's safety. Feeling
Mhm.
secure and safe.
Mhm.
So what does that look like? What would being secure and safe and living life without anxiety look like for you? So we
Mhm.
tap on that and then we release it because our body holds our trauma.
Mhm.
And so, your back pain, trauma. All of this is trauma that
Mhm. Gut
we
issues,
have, gut issues,
any pain, like
headaches.
joint pain. Yeah.
Yes, it's all trauma stuff
Mhm.
in our body. And so when
Yep.
we need to acknowledge that it's there and then release it. And then the third round, not everyone does the third round. I like the
Mhm.
third round because it's tapping into the person we want to become.
Okay.
So the third round always looks like something like, I am brave, I am confident, I can do hard things, and I will get
Mhm.
through this. Because for
Mhm.
so long, we've heard the opposite. We've heard, you
Mhm.
can't do this. You will not find anyone better than me. You don't deserve anything because you're a piece of shit. All these things. So
Mhm.
we have to rewire the brain. And I tell people, even if you don't believe it now,
Mhm.
we're telling your brain, and your brain will
Right.
believe it. And when your brain believes it, your mindset will follow.
Right.
So keep doing it, keep
Mhm.
practicing. So when I became a practitioner,
Mhm.
I accidentally, I just
I
spent,
love that. I love that, like, you weren't even trying to do it and it found you. Like,
Mhm.
that's perfect. That's so beautiful. Keep going.
Yes, yeah.
Sorry. I
And
just think it's
so,
gorgeous.
and so, that I just spent hours and hours and hours. I would go outside and just go for walks. They
Mhm.
say like the trees and being in the forest and being outside, breathing in the fresh air and just letting it all the negativity go, letting it
Mhm.
all go into the trees, into the woods. And
Mhm.
I would just, for a couple of years, I didn't stop. And now it's to the point where any little thing comes up, I don't even have to really do the tapping. I can acknowledge it right away, release it, move on with my life. Um,
Beautiful.
because that, and going back to what I was saying about seeing your story through a different lens and being able to be the hero of your story. When I was able to see the lessons clearly, I knew what I
Mhm.
needed to tap on.
Mhm.
And then I was able to really heal and really break the patterns. So I
Right.
can say with confidence, when and if I decide to date again and to be in a relationship again, I know I have healed. I know I have broken those patterns in my life. I know I do not need to be afraid that I'm going to meet the third narcissist, because it
Right.
is it is done. I have done the hard work. And it
Right.
is possible for anyone listening here. Yeah, you have to do the hard work. And it's
Mhm.
hard and it is
And it's
work.
gonna look different. It'll
It
look
is.
different for everyone, and, I mean, tapping was, like, a big thing for you. I know for
For me,
me, Reiki,
yes.
like, I had a Reiki session that was, like, amazing. I can add a link for the practitioner for that, and therapy. I mean, talk therapy has been amazing for me to, like, build my toolbox, you know?
Yes.
And now
Mhm.
instead of, like, searching the house for my toolbox when something bad, happens, or when I have those intrusive negative thoughts come in, now I'm just like, oh yeah, I know which tool I want to grab for this. And there it is. And
Exactly.
sometimes it is tapping,
Hmm.
because my therapist was very big on the body keeps the score.
Yes,
Um,
that's what I'm saying, where our body
mhm.
holds our
But like
traumas.
that book, she oh yeah, she loves that
Yeah.
book. So it recommended it to me, and I read it and took to it. And that's how I found EFT, actually, was
Oh,
that
right
book.
on. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's such a good book.
Oh, so yeah, I feel you. And it's gonna look different for everybody, but and I want to say this because I feel like some people don't think that they ever will heal, or that they will never unlearn that learned behavior of being a victim. You know, I can't
Mhm.
remember the name of it, but the study where they like kept zapping the dog every time he went on a side of the cage, and then he would just be on that side. I'm going to have to look that up for the next time we talk.
Yeah.
Um, but it was like a learned behavior. It was learned victimization. Like they just
Yeah.
learned to do it. And it's the same with us. And that it's a total fucking lie. Like you don't have to stay there. Like we said that we
No.
were going to talk about this. You don't have to stay there. Just because the trauma bonding happened doesn't mean that that is all you deserve, or all you're ever going to have, or that
Mhm.
every relationship is always going to be this way. Even if you leave this one, you're going to just find, no, you can absolutely flip the script.
Yep.
And like you said, become the heroine in, or the hero in your own story.
Yes.
And if you're doing that and people are trying to make you feel bad because you can't accept like next level, like meditation, or like just telling you like things to do that are like faux self-care, like take a bubble bath, or make time for
Mhm.
you, and blah blah blah, and you haven't had the chance to even try to heal, you can kindly tell them to go fuck themselves, and that you are
Mhm.
not there yet, and you have some time and some need for work. And when you're done with all that, maybe you can talk to them about like some existential shit, or like some like next level, I want to be a higher being, whatever. No, 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 no. Right now, you're like, I'm just trying to claw out of someone telling me I'm garbage every day.
Yeah.
Let
Yep.
me let me sit with that. Let me work on that in my
Mhm.
way,
Yep.
how I feel is working best for me. So if somebody tells you that tapping is the thing that's working for them, fucking believe them and believe in it with them. Don't tell them, oh, well, psychotherapy is really the only thing that's going to make you. No, fuck that. Like that might work for you, but if there's something else, if it's cuddling, if it's clinical hypnosis, if it's like submerging in water and just like being able to think without having to hear the things that
Yeah.
cycle through your mind, trust that the person who's trying to heal knows the best method. They have it
Yeah.
inside them, and they know what's going to work for them.
Absolutely. And knowing, just to piggyback off of that, knowing that there are so many different modalities out there. You
Yes.
have to find the one that resonates with you. You have to find the
Mhm.
practitioner that resonates with you. And so,
Mhm.
for a lot of people, I see these in all the support groups. It's like, well, I'm trying to get in to see a therapist. I'm trying to do all this. Yes, do that. But there are so many other modalities out there. Like you were
It's fucking
saying, I mean,
annoying that, like, those are the only ones that, like, take insurance.
it
Like, that's
is.
irritating as fuck, because there are
It's
so many that are way faster. I'm sorry, like,
exactly.
they're way faster. Like,
So,
you can heal so much in, like, a session. Yeah.
yes, like the rapid rewiring. Well, that's why I
Mhm.
love EFT because it's so fast and it's been proven
Mhm.
over and over again to rapidly heal people with PTSD or CPTSD,
Mhm.
and but you have to find the modality that works for you. It could be breath
Right.
work, it could be meditation, it could be hypnotherapy, it could just be talk therapy, psychotherapy,
Mhm.
EFT, they're Reiki.
Right. And if you
There's
find a
so
modality
many.
that you like and you don't like the person, or you don't feel connected to the person, or like that you trust the person that you're working with doing it, find another one. Like,
Yes,
that's okay. You don't have to drop it completely. Just try somebody else on.
yes,
Just keep
exactly.
fighting for yourself. Like, keep fighting for your ability to heal from this, because don't let that societal norm, don't let the man keep you down that like this can't
Yeah.
happen. It can. We are living, walking, breathing proof that you
Yes.
can, and you will continue. Like, that healing,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't just stop. Like, you're not like
No.
healed forever. Like, it's going to keep going. You're going to see it in different ways.
Mm-hmm. And you will have so much freedom. Like, I have
Mhm.
never felt so free in my life that I
Mhm.
do now. So
Right.
free. Just like what you were saying, like before the marriages. I feel like I'm in my early 20s again, free.
That's
And you
wonderful.
and anyone else can have that freedom too. It's
Mhm.
available. You have to put the hard work in, but it's
Mhm.
hard. It's not impossible. I remember
Right.
so many times just struggling and crying and being like, I can't take this anymore. But then I would
Mm.
hear that still voice inside me, Stephany, it's hard, but it's not impossible. You will
Right.
get through this. Take it
Right.
one day at a time. Take it 1 hour at a time, one moment at a time, if
Mm.
that's what you need to do.
Mhm.
And really take care of yourself, because I have children, you have children, a lot of listeners have children. We can't help our children heal and process everything until we have healed or begun the healing process. It's like when you're flying on an airplane, the stewardess always say, parents, you have to put your mask on first
Mhm.
before you can help your children. It's like that when you're healing from these toxic relationships as well. You have to
Right.
take care of yourself, and then you can take care of your children.
Mhm. Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, Stephany, I want to have
So
you
good.
back. I want to have you back. I don't
Yes.
want to take up like your whole time today, but I want to have you back. Um, I know that there are other things that I have written down from our previous conversations that I want to talk about, at
Yes.
least a couple more episodes.
I
Uh,
would love to.
on the way out, um, how can people get in touch with you if they want to have you as a speaker? If they would like to work with you for EFT, are you accepting
I
clients?
am. I am. Yep. And
Okay.
so
And
I have
can they
not
do it
finished.
virtually?
Yep. I do
Okay.
everything virtually.
Okay. Awesome.
Praise God for 2020. The good stuff. The good stuff.
Right. The good that came out
Where
of
we've
it.
learned that is Zoom is everywhere.
Right.
Yes, so I do one-on-one sessions right now.
Okay.
Really, trying to break the trauma bond, trying to stay strong through no contact, working on healing yourself. So I am available for that, and
Mm-hmm.
I am definitely available for speaking opportunities. I My website is not complete yet. Still,
Mm-hmm.
working on that. Some big things
Is
have
it all
come up in the
right
last
to?
2 weeks, but yeah, so I'm on
Yeah.
Facebook, and I
Okay.
will I will give you the links. I'm on Facebook, I'm on LinkedIn, and
Mm-hmm.
you can email me at stephanyannSpeaks.com as well.
Okay.
And I will give you those links.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. And I'll definitely put them in the show notes, so that people can just click on them, or, find you that way. Um, so wonderful. Oh, it was so nice having you today.
Yeah,
I
thank
think
you.
that you are definitely a force for good in the world,
Thank
and we
you.
need more forces for good in the world.
Yes, we
Um,
do.
yeah, and I think that you are a person who is truly engaged in sharing your light. Like, you have found your way. You are engaging yourself in healing, and you want to heal others because of it. And it's just beautiful. And I
Yeah.
love it.
No, thank you so much. It was
Yeah.
really an honor and a pleasure to be here and to talk with you. And I look forward to coming back because, like you said, there's so many more things to talk
There's
about.
so many facets to this. And I mean,
There
like,
is.
honestly, folks, I'm going to tell you right now, she hasn't scratched the surface of the information that she can share with you. And she wears many hats. So we're going to try to get as much of that knowledge from each of her hat wearing selves on this show.
Yes.
So, Stephany, thank you so much for coming on. And my lovelies, I will talk to you in a week.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to Storytime with the Intimacy Ally. We hope you learned a bit more about putting the fire back in your romantic relationships, exploring communication and emotional readiness in all relationships, and how to expand your definition of intimacy so you can reach your relationship goals. Go to theintimacyally.com to subscribe and never miss an episode. Follow the links in the show notes to social media and events. Till next time, keep on learning, growing, and thinking. Storytime with the Intimacy Ally podcast is meant for educational and entertainment purposes only and should not be considered as health or mental health advice.